You know what's worse than being lost? Feeling stuck and not knowing why. You wake up, go through your day, do what you're supposed to, and yet something always feels a little off. Like your energy's trapped in a room you can't see. And every time you try to move forward, it's like your own thoughts keep pulling you back. It's frustrating because it's not dramatic. Nothing's exploding. You're just tired of feeling like you're almost there, but never quite. Like something invisible is sitting between you and the life you actually want. You tell yourself to be patient. You try to be grateful. But behind all that, there's this low hum in your mind that won't shut up. Why is nothing changing? And deep down, you already know the answer. But it's not the one you want to hear. Because it's not about doing more. Not about grinding harder. Not about waking up at 5 a.m. or writing in a better notebook. It's about the fact that there's something in you you've been avoiding. A choice you keep dodging. A truth you've been too scared to sit with. So you keep trying to distract yourself with progress. You're stuck because some part of you is still holding on to what's safe. Not good, not real, just safe. And until you face that one thing, whatever it is for you, nothing else is going to move. No matter how many goals you set, no matter how much you try to stay positive. Because you can't shift your life from a place you refuse to stand in. And that's the piece most people miss. That one thing keeping you stuck, it's not fear, it's not self-doubt. It's something even sneakier, emotional loyalty to your old self. Let that sink in. You've changed on the outside, your goals, your mindset, your awareness. But deep down, you're still loyal to the version of you who was built to survive. The one who kept quiet to stay liked. The one who played it safe so nothing could fall apart. The one who made themselves small just to avoid being abandoned. And even now, even after everything you've learned, you still protect that version. You still make decisions through their lens. You still hesitate when you feel something bold rising in you, because that older part whispers, "Careful, don't ruin this." And until you break that loyalty, until you let go of who you used to be, even if they saved you once, you'll keep shrinking in moments meant to expand you. You'll keep pausing before you speak, not because you're thoughtful, but because you're scared of being too much. You'll keep choosing situations that feel familiar, not because they're right, but because they match your past. It's subtle. You'll say things like, "I'm just being realistic," or "That's just how I've always been," or "I don't want to make things awkward." But really what you mean is, "I don't want to become someone my old self wouldn't recognize." And that's what's keeping you stuck. Not the world, not the people around you, not even the circumstances. It's the way you still quietly believe you're not allowed to fully let go. Because if you do, you might lose something. Your place in the group, your image, your narrative, even your idea of who you are. But here's the reality. Most people never face. You don't get to become who you're meant to be without disappointing the version of you who settled. You have to be okay letting them go. Not with disrespect, with gratitude, because they got you here. But they're not the one who's going to take you further. That's the shift. That's the moment the momentum changes. Not when you add more to your life, but when you finally release the part of you that's been quietly anchoring you in place. Once you finally let go of who you were trying to protect, something unexpected happens. Things get quiet. Not peaceful, not yet, just quiet. The constant buzz of inner negotiation fades. You're no longer overthinking your every word. You're not scanning the room, wondering if you're being too much or not enough. You're not building your day around how to be digestible. You just start existing. And it feels strange. Because for so long, your energy was tied up in the performance. The subtle role-playing. The emotional labor of anticipating everyone's response to who you are. Now, without that pressure, you're left with space. Real space. And in that space, things begin to rearrange. You no longer force yourself to laugh at things that aren't funny. You don't rush to say, "I'm fine," when you're clearly not. You stop pretending that chaos doesn't bother you, just so you can seem easygoing. You stop playing your personality like a defense strategy, and what replaces it isn't some dramatic transformation. It's small, steady moments of relief. You feel yourself breathing deeper around certain people. You notice how good it feels to be quiet without apologizing for it. You start catching the difference between being liked and being respected. You stop explaining things to people who've already made up their minds. You stop seeking closure from people who were never meant to stay. You stop holding your tongue just to maintain a connection that only survives when you abandon yourself. And from the outside, it might not look like much has changed, but on the inside, it's a complete rewiring. You're no longer checking in with your fear before making decisions. You're not asking the past version of you for permission to grow. You're not consulting the part of you that was trained to settle. Instead, you move from what's true, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's misunderstood, even if it means certain things fall away. Because now, peace matters more than being perceived a certain way. Alignment matters more than approval. And truth matters more than comfort. And the best part? You don't need to explain it. Not to the people who don't understand. Not to the past version of yourself that might have panicked at this level of honesty. Not to the voice in your head that still whispers, "Are you sure?" when you choose what actually feels right. You just keep walking, not away from anything, but towards something more honest, more stable, more you. And you don't need to say it out loud. Your energy says it for you now. You don't even notice it at first. But one day, something happens. Someone brings up an old pattern, an old dynamic, an old version of you, and you don't flinch. You don't explain. You don't overcompensate. You don't make yourself smaller to avoid the silence. You just don't participate. And in that moment, something clicks. You're no longer trying to keep the old story alive. You've changed the script. And now the old characters don't know their lines anymore. People who once felt close suddenly feel foreign. Conversations that used to drag you in now bore you. Rooms that once felt important suddenly feel like a performance you're no longer willing to audition for. Not because you're better than anyone, not because you've become cold or distant, but because your energy no longer bends in those directions. And here's the strange part. Life responds to that. Opportunities start falling through, the ones that were never meant for the real you. Plans collapse, people fade, everything that depended on you being confused about yourself, it starts slipping away. At first, it feels like loss, but if you stay with it long enough, you realize you're not losing anything. You're just finally stopping the cycle of holding on to what never truly held you, that version of you who needed to be needed. Gone? The one who said yes just to avoid discomfort? Fading. The one who twisted themselves into 1,000 versions just to be accepted? Silent now, because something stronger has taken their place. Not a louder voice, but a clearer one. You don't chase anymore. You don't over-explain. You don't take rejection as a reflection of your worth. You take it as redirection. And the peace that comes with that is not flashy. It doesn't come with applause. It's not the kind of peace that looks good on paper, but it's real. And that kind of peace builds slowly, quietly, brick by brick. Every time you choose truth over comfort, presence over performance, alignment over approval, that's when the momentum actually starts to build, not from pushing harder, but from not leaking your energy into what no longer feeds your becoming. The world won't always understand this version of you, but for the first time, you do. And that's enough. There's a strange moment that happens when you've been living from this new place long enough. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not chasing clarity. And then, out of nowhere, you realize you actually like who you've become. Not the polished version, not the version with the good lighting and the right words, but the one who sits in silence and feels settled. The one who no longer walks into every room with a shield. the one who isn't always looking for a way to fix themselves. You start noticing it in weird ways. You take your time walking home. You stop filling every silence with noise. You scroll less. You listen more, not because you're trying to be mindful, but because your nervous system isn't starving for stimulation anymore. You've become comfortable with quiet, not the numb kind, the grounded kind, the kind of quiet that says, I'm not waiting for my life to start anymore. You stop comparing your progress to everyone else's. You stop carrying the weight of being on track. You realize there is no track. There's only this moment, and whether or not you're actually in it, you find joy in things that used to feel like maintenance. Doing the dishes, folding laundry, stretching in the morning, not because they're glamorous, but because they're real. And for so long, you live so far from anything that felt real. You're not addicted to drama anymore. Not chasing highs, not bracing for collapse every time things feel calm. Peace used to feel suspicious, like something was about to go wrong. Now it just feels earned. That's when you realize you didn't need a new life. You needed to stop performing the old one. And once that lands, once you feel it in your body, you start treating your time differently. You no longer waste your days trying to become someone else. You use them to return to who you were before the world told you how to act. And in that return, there's no urgency, no panic, just breathe. And it feels human. There's a kind of power that doesn't come from force. It comes from being done with your own bullshit. You don't make decisions from fear anymore. You don't move just to keep the peace or stay just to be polite. You don't say yes just because it's easier than explaining the no. Instead, you start choosing based on what feels clean. Not flashy, not impressive, just aligned. You walk away from arguments before they start, not because you're passive, but because you don't owe everyone your energy. You pass on opportunities that don't feel right, even when the old you would have said, but what if it never comes again? That desperation, gone. That urgency to fix, to prove, to be seen, it's replaced by something quieter, but stronger. Now you move with integrity, not impulse, and it shows up everywhere. You respond slower, not because you don't care, but because you're not reactive. You set boundaries without speeches. You feel resistance in your body and actually pause to feel it, instead of pushing past it like you used to. You don't get dragged into stories that aren't yours anymore. Not every message needs a reply. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every version of you needs to be preserved. You outgrow the idea that healing means being nice all the time. Sometimes healing means letting people misunderstand you. Sometimes healing means being blunt, not cruel, just honest. Sometimes healing is not soft, it's solid. You stop negotiating with your own intuition. You stop pretending not to know what you know. You stop apologizing for growing out of spaces that don't reflect who you're becoming. And because of that, your life starts to quiet down. Not because it's boring, but because it's finally real. You stop chasing peak experiences just to feel alive. You start recognizing aliveness in ordinary moments, when you choose rest without guilt, when you speak without rehearsing, when you show up without needing a script. And slowly, all the pieces start clicking into place. Not perfectly, not instantly, but steadily, like your life is finally responding to the real you, not the performance. And that's when you know this version of you isn't stuck, it's anchored. And here's the truth most people never say out loud. You were never broken. You were just buried under years of people-pleasing, under pressure to be palatable, under ideas of success that never actually fit who you are. And the reason you felt stuck wasn't because you lacked clarity. It was because you were too loyal to a version of yourself that was built in survival. But now you see it. You're not here to prove your worth. You're not here to earn your existence. You're not here to rehearse a version of life that makes other people comfortable. You're here to live, to take up space, to walk in truth, even when it costs you the comfort of who you used to be. And that's not a one-time thing. It's a practice, a quiet decision you make every day. to move with honesty, to protect your peace, to let go, even when you're not sure what's next. Because what's waiting for you on the other side of all that letting go isn't a new version of you. It's the real one, the one who's been underneath it all, just waiting for permission to finally breathe. So if this landed with you, if something in your chest just exhaled, leave a comment with one word: unstuck. No need to explain it. Just type it. Let it mark the moment you stopped pretending, stopped holding back, and started moving forward as the version of you that's finally real. And if you're ready to keep shedding the noise, subscribe. We're not here to perform. We're here to come home, one honest step at a time.